Welcome to New York Weekly Record. I'm your host, Michele Evans. This week, the city gave us a little bit of everything. A law that says Rikers Island must close even as the replacement plan falls years behind. A federal appeals ruling that could finally let the public see more of how New York disciplines prosecutors. The anniversary of a night in Tompkins Square Park when police violence exploded into public view. And a high-ranking police official now facing an attempted murder charge. That is a lot of power, accountability, and unanswered questions packed into 1 week. So tonight, we're following the record, not the spin. We're looking at what the law says, what institutions actually did, and what happens when those two things collide. Grab your coffee, your tea, or whatever gets you through New York news, because we have 4 stories to get into. This is the New York Weekly Record. A door New York, kept shut for years, may finally be opening. A federal appeals court has ruled that the public can challenge the secrecy surrounding New York's prosecutor discipline system. And that matters because prosecutors hold extraordinary power. They decide what charges to bring, what evidence gets turned over, what plea offers get made, and in many cases, whether someone goes home or goes to prison. Yet when prosecutors themselves are accused of misconduct, the disciplinary process has historically been remarkably difficult for the public to see. The Second Circuit's ruling does not suddenly throw every disciplinary file onto the courthouse steps, but it cracks open something important: the ability to challenge blanket secrecy and demand greater transparency. And here's the bigger issue. Accountability cannot depend on which side of the courtroom you stand on. We expect defendants to answer publicly to accusations. Judges issue rulings in public courtrooms. Police misconduct is increasingly subject to public scrutiny. Prosecutors should not occupy some mysterious accountability-free zone simply because their work happens on behalf of the state. There are legitimate privacy concerns in disciplinary investigations, especially before allegations are substantiated. But secrecy should be tailored, not automatic. The public does not need gossip. It needs a system it can trust. And trust is hard to build when the people with enormous power are disciplined behind a curtain. This ruling does not finish that fight, but it may have finally pulled the curtain back a few inches. Rikers closure deadline is out of reach. New York City has a Rikers Island problem that can no longer be solved by pretending the calendar is negotiable. The law says Rikers must close. The deadline is roughly a year away. The borough-based replacement jails will not be ready. Those 3 facts now exist at the same time. And that leaves New York staring at a collision between a legal mandate and a construction reality. The city's plan was supposed to replace the sprawling Rikers complex with smaller borough-based jails closer to courts, attorneys, and families. But delays, rising costs, and shifting timelines have pushed completion well beyond the closure deadline. Here's what matters. The law has not magically changed because the city fell behind. That means officials need to explain clearly and publicly what happens next. Does the city council amend the law? Does the city attempt some temporary workaround? Does litigation force the issue? And most importantly, what happens to the thousands of human beings who will still be in city custody when that deadline arrives? Because Rikers is not an abstract policy debate. People live there. People work there. Families wait for phone calls from there. New Yorkers have been promised reform, replacement facilities, and closure dates for years. At some point, a deadline has to mean something. The city cannot simply arrive at the date, shrug, point to construction cranes, and ask everyone to pretend the law said something else. The clock is running. And this time, New York needs more than another plan for the plan. Tompkins Square Park, 1988. Tompkins Square Park today can look almost peaceful enough to make you forget what happened there in August 1988. Almost. That night, a dispute over a park curfew exploded into hours of violence involving police, protesters, neighborhood residents, journalists, and people who simply happened to be there. Video captured officers striking people with batons. Reporters were attacked. Bystanders were caught in the chaos. The images became part of New York history, and the story still feels uncomfortably current. The East Village was changing rapidly. Homeless New Yorkers and squatters were increasingly visible. Residents were divided over the park. Police were sent in to enforce a newly imposed curfew. Then, everything went sideways. What makes Tompkins Square important is not nostalgia for a rougher New York. It is the warning embedded in what happened. When police power, public space, homelessness, neighborhood tension, and political pressure collide, accountability matters before the first baton swings, not only afterward. Investigations followed. Officers faced disciplinary action. The NYPD changed policies. But New York is still debating many of the same questions. Who gets to occupy public space? How should police respond to protest? What happens when officers cover their badges? Who protects journalists documenting police activity? And what does accountability look like when an institution investigates itself? Tompkins Square Park is part of the East Village's memory. The trees grew back. The neighborhood changed. But history has a way of tapping New York on the shoulder and asking whether we actually learned anything. High-ranking police officer arrested for attempted murder. A high-ranking police official is now on the other side of the criminal justice system. Mount Vernon Deputy Commissioner of Public Safety, Jennifer Lackard, was arrested and charged with attempted murder, an extraordinary allegation against someone entrusted with helping oversee public safety. Lackard has pleaded not guilty, and that is important. Charges are allegations. The government still has to prove its case. But the arrest raises questions that go beyond one defendant. When someone reaches a senior law enforcement position, the public is entitled to ask how that person was vetted, supervised, and promoted. Were there previous complaints? Were there warning signs? Did colleagues or supervisors know of concerns that never became public? Those questions do not presume guilt. They are basic institutional accountability. Police departments ask the public to trust officers with enormous authority, the power to detain, arrest, use force, and in extreme circumstances, take a life. That trust cannot operate in only one direction. If the allegations are proven, officials will need to explain how someone holding such a powerful position reached that level of authority. If the allegations are not proven, Lackard is entitled to the same presumption of innocence the system promises every defendant. Either way, this case deserves careful scrutiny, not sensationalism and not silence. Because public safety is not just about who gets arrested. It is also about who is entrusted with the badge, who supervises them, and whether the systems designed to catch problems actually work before something catastrophic happens. And that is the record for this week. 4 very different stories, but one thread running through all of them. Power only works when accountability works with it. A prosecutor discipline system cannot earn public trust from behind a wall of secrecy. A legal deadline to close Rikers cannot mean much if government can simply miss it without explaining what comes next. The history of Tompkins Square reminds us what happens when authority and public anger collide without restraint. And when a senior law enforcement official is accused of a serious crime, the institution around that official deserves scrutiny too. That is why we keep reading the decisions, watching the agencies, checking the records, and asking the questions. I'm Michele Evans, and this has been New York Weekly Record. If something in tonight's show made you think, share it with somebody who should be paying attention too. Join me next Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for another New York Weekly Record. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and never be afraid to ask what the paperwork actually says. See you next week, New York.